Good evening and welcome to a candidates forum for Muscatine Mayor and City Council. The League of Women Voters of Muscatine County is sponsoring this event, and on behalf of the League, I welcome the 11 candidates who are on the ballot this time and who generously offer to give their time and their talent to serve the people of Muscatine. I'm Sue Johansson, President of the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County, and we are here in City Council chambers at Muscatine City Hall. The League of Women Voters is pleased to host this forum for the voters of Muscatine. We're grateful for the opportunity to learn more about the candidates who want to donate their skills and their ideas to the people of Muscatine. We appreciate all of you in the audience here tonight, and we hope that tonight's forum is beneficial to you in selecting candidates when you go to the polls to vote on November 7th. The League of Women Voters is composed of people, women and men, to form an organization that encourages you, the voters, to be informed and to actively participate in government. The League does not support any candidate. However, the League influences public policy through education and advocacy. Through voter service activities, the public gains information on candidates, election issues, and voter participation is promoted. This forum is a voter service event, and as president of the League of Women Voters, I have moderated many forums. Tonight, I'm going to move over just a bit and let Dan Clark, one of our members, moderate. Thanks to Dan for stepping up to moderate this forum.
Thank you, Sue. Tonight I will do my best to wear your shoes. On behalf of the League, I greet the audience here in the council chamber as well as those viewing on Civic TV Channel 2. That's your local cable TV. Also streaming online via the City of Muscatine YouTube channel, if everything is working well. We encourage members of the audience here to submit written questions. Cards are available, which I may revise or combine. And yes, indeed, men can be members of the League. We'd be happy for some more of you guys. Now I welcome the candidates. So our first round of questioning is with the council candidates. We have 3 positions. Welcome, Oz, come on up.
You made it back.
Come this way. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
It took a bit. Thank you, sir.
I heard you were down on a trip again.
Yeah. Okay.
Does this mic work okay?
Pulling everybody up.
Get closer to it.
Have to lean in a little, maybe.
Better late than never, though.
There you go.
So we have 3 council seats open. 3 candidates to my right are Kelsey Brackett. This is for the at-large seat. They serve, that position serves everyone in the city. Kelsey Brackett, Carrie Dennison, and Scott Natvig. Scott is the incumbent. Oz Malcolm made an appearance. This is for the 2nd Ward seat. Oz is Osmond Malcolm is challenging incumbent Michael Raywald. And then we have for the 4th Ward Council, Bob Bynum is not running again. Poor health, decided not to do it. So there are 4 vying for his seat: Nadine Brockert, Vance Crumley, Brian Freitag, and Larry Murray. We're going to allow 1.5 minutes each for the first 2 questions. Question number 1 is simply, tell us about yourself. Why do you want to run for council? And then there's a second question, which we gave them in advance. They could do some thinking about. They get 1.5 minutes on that one. And from then on, everything is 1 minute. We have a timer who will give warnings when time is almost up. So let's start right here with Kelsey Brackett. Why do you want to run for council?
All right, well, thanks, Dan. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, our moderator, Sue, as well, and all of you for taking time to be involved in choosing our local government. Muscatine's been my home for 19 years. During that time, I've gotten married, I've raised children, started my own business, I purchased 2 homes, and I've made many friends. And now I find myself looking to give back to the community that has given me so much. So over the last 2 years, I've worked to educate myself on our local government. During that time, I've learned about the many boards and commissions, as well as the different elected roles and staff positions. I attended many meetings, I've asked many questions, and I've made suggestions, and I got involved. I'm running for city council because that is where I feel I can make the most benefit to Muscatine. I did not enter this race with reactionary anger, but instead a calm determination to bring order back to our community and push forward the growth we need, the growth we deserve, and most of all, to serve the people of Muscatine. So I'm asking for your vote, and in doing so, I'm accepting the responsibility that goes along with such a serious request. Thank you.
Kerry Dennison.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to thank you all for coming out tonight on this not so very nice night, and would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. My name is Kerry Dennison, and I am married to longtime resident Karen Dennison, formerly Karen Bishop, and I have one stepson, Brian Prusman. I'm originally from Davenport, Iowa, and the many travels and travails in my life led me here to Muscatine in 2008, and I became a permanent resident in 2012. I have quite a diverse background that I don't have time to share tonight, but the background has allowed me to see so many things from so many perspectives. I have been involved in city government in the past and ran for office in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. After moving here, I noticed that there were so many people running unopposed for office. I told my wife a couple years ago that I was going to consider running for office in the future so that people would have choices. Without choices, you don't have much of a democracy. When the problems with our city government started, I considered not running. But after talking to enough citizens here and getting their input, I decided my experience, my leadership skills, and a strong independent voice would be beneficial in trying to solve these problems and restore some civility, nonpartisanship, and order to our city government. There are a lot of exciting things going on in Muscatine right now, and these governmental problems must be solved so we can continue moving forward with the people's business, the existing projects, as well as the many great projects to come, and making Muscatine a town we can all truly be proud of. Thank you.
Scott Natvig.
Okay, thanks, Dan and Sue. My wife Nancy and I moved here 38 years ago, so Muscatine is our home. In fact, our twin daughters were born at Muscatine General Hospital, and all 3 of our daughters attended Muscatine schools from kindergarten through high school. I recently retired after 42 years in production management, 37 of those years here in Muscatine. My career included budget preparation, conflict resolution, and professional recruitment, all useful in serving on council. I also have 8 years city council experience, including 8 city budgets. I've served this community for over 35 years, including Leadership Muscatine, Trinity Hospital, Relay for Life, and our church. These days, when you don't see me attending city council meetings, you might find me volunteering at the hospital information desk, mowing the church lawn, or enjoying my grandchildren. I'm running for city council because Muscatine is my home and I'm focused on progress. I'd like to see the completion of the many major road upgrades and our many quality of life projects, such as the new library, trails, parks, and a riverfront. Voters should know that public safety is still top priority to me. Fire protection and police protection is something that everybody needs. Our fire department is a role model across the state. Our firefighters are paramedics trained with life-saving skills in emergencies. Our police department is fully staffed and accredited. I'm dedicated to Muscatine, and I'm focused on our future. Thank you, Dan.
Oz Malcolm.
Good evening. I'd like to apologize to everybody for running late, and thank you for having me the opportunity and high privilege here. My name is Osmond Malcolm. Formerly, my friends and everybody that likes me call me Oz. My wife is from Muscatine, and we moved back here 6 years ago to caregive for her mother, who went to be with the Lord in February. But we've been transplanted here, and so for the past 6.5 years, Muscatine has made me a Muscatinian. I volunteer here a lot. My background comes very diverse. I've attended a lot of schools. My wife says I have more degrees than a thermometer. I'm overachiever. I've volunteered, I've worked with different election campaigns. I've worked for senators, both sides of the House as aides, clerical, administrative help. I've had the privilege of working in the White House while I was in the Marine Corps. I'm a retired Marine. I'm a Christian preacher, Bible teacher, that's a lot of stuff like that. I volunteer at the VA hospital as a chaplain and a clinical psychologist. I volunteer with the Salvation Army as a disaster coordinator, which is the reason why I was a little late today. I came here and I saw things that got my attention, and one of the biggest things is I'm used to getting customer service, and I'm used to getting good customer service, especially from people who are supposed to be representing me, and I didn't feel I was getting that. And I learned a long time ago, if you got a problem, you need to do something to solve the problem. Don't sit around and complain about the problem. Fix the problem. So my wife and I talked about it, and she gave me permission that I could run and see if I could help solve the problems. I'd like to see some economic development, low to moderate income housing. I'd like to find some coalitions with other council members once I'm elected where we can work on group projects to make Muscatine the real pearl of the Mississippi again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mike Raywald.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for hosting this event, and I want to preface my remarks about why I'm running for council with mea culpa. Some of my friends who are in the audience tonight have said about my communication skills that I might be asking the right question, but I'm doing it the wrong way. And I have failed at being an effective communicator and been short in tone at times and clouded the content and quality of things we've accomplished here, but I'm sorry for that if I've communicated inappropriately or wrongly. Let's get quickly to why I'm running. I was born and raised in the 2nd Ward in Muscatine. I left town for career purposes, but then it was always plan A to come back, and here I am. I've served on, I think, almost every board and commission or volunteer board there is in Muscatine over the years, both before and after leaving. And I came back and was encouraged to run for the council, and I remembered that my father, 50 years ago or more, served on the council and how much he enjoyed it and how seriously he took it and what a wonderful example it was for me. And I thought, tip of the hat to Dad, I'll give it a shot myself, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a wonderfully exciting time to serve on the council. There's so many positive things going on in Muscatine. It's wonderful. And I hope to have an opportunity to continue. Thank you.
Nadine Brockert.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, League of Women Voters, and thank you all for coming. I was approached to run for city council because this person thought that I would be pretty good at it, and I thought, well, okay. This is my first foray into politics, obviously, so please bear with me. For the 4th Ward, we need a grocery store, first and foremost. That's on everybody's wish list. And I also hope to provide open and honest communication as a key to building trust with the folks in 4th Ward. My work experience includes 34 plus years at Monsanto, where I did everything from secretarial, traffic department, storeroom, and I helped with the design, implementation, teaching users of the SAP system that Monsanto currently is using. It does everything from ordering raw materials to sending the bill to paying the employees. I was fortunate enough while I was there to serve on a lot of safety committees, and I got a chance to go to Lockheed Martin as one of the benchmarking spots that we went to. We were comparing safety practices. I'm a 1967 graduate of Muscatine High School. I've been married for 49 years. We have 2 sons, 4 grandchildren, and 1.7 great-grandchildren.
Vance Crumley.
I wish to thank Dan and Sue both and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity and this invitation. I look forward to answering your questions, getting to know me a little better. I was born and raised in Muscatine, and I am very proud to call this my home. I currently work at Hy-Vee in the meat department, and that has helped me hone my customer service skills because I believe that is beneficial to a council member because your first priority should be to serve the people who have elected you. And the council members need to keep that in mind at all times. I have worked for Han also for 11 years, and I've done everything from pack out up to group leader. Among my responsibilities, we're working with diverse groups of people to achieve the desired goals. This helped me work with people who may not have the same idea how to achieve those goals, but also have the best ideas that you can work with someone else and achieve those goals. My work at HNI helped me to understand that and to understand the processes to get those achieved. The training within these jobs has given me the skills necessary, I believe, to be an effective council member.
Ryan Freitag.
Thank you, Dan and Sue. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me here this evening. I'm happy to be here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Freitag. I am 50 years old and a lifetime resident of the 4th Ward. Running for public office is a little new to me. I am not running as a politician, but more like a public servant. I want to do all that I can to contribute to preserving all that is great about Muscatine and make it an even better place to live, work, and raise a family. I graduated from Muscatine High School in '85. I then received a football scholarship from Ellsworth Junior College. While earning my associate's degree, I had the honor and privilege of playing on the 1987 National Junior College Championship team. Recently, all 80 members of that team have been inducted into the Ellsworth Junior College Hall of Fame. I also was the president of the Criminal Justice Club for 2 years. I then moved on to St. Ambrose University on a football scholarship, where I received my BA degree in criminal justice. Ladies and gentlemen, our city has both challenges and opportunities. The solution to our challenge and opportunities is leadership. Our city now more than ever needs leaders, not more managers, not more consultants, and not more governors. Leadership is what it will take to give the people back their voices, and that's why I'm running for city council, to give you back your voice. Thank you.
Larry Murray.
Good evening. I want to thank the Leagues of Women Voters for inviting us all here today. I've lived here since 1998. I have my significant other, Denise, and I have 4 kids and 2 dogs, and I'm manager at Salvatore's by Paparino in historic downtown Muscatine. The reason why I'm running is I wanted to show my oldest kid that to make a difference, you have to have a solution, and the solution is to have an answer to a problem. And the problem is no one was running at the time when I decided to run in May. And I show them that people hide on the internet and phones, and they talk, but no one makes any positive movements forward. And I wanted to teach them that to have a positive impact on anybody, you have to stand up and come out of your comfort zone and make a difference. And that's when I told them I was going to run for city council to show them, that I'm going to try and make a difference. Win or lose, I made the effort. Together, we designed my sign. He picked out the sign format and everything, and I explained to him the color formats and that we are running for the city of Muscatine. That's why my signs are yellow and gold, or gold and purple, excuse me. And we want to show that we're here for Muscatine and show my solution. I'm bringing my dependability, hard working, and logic to Muscatine and hopefully to city council. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now we move to the only question these folks have received in advance. Again, 1.5 minutes to answer this one. And we do a rotation alphabetically by last name, so I'm going to start with Mr. Dennison this time, and we'll do it within groups. So it'll be Mr. Dennison, Mr. Natvig, and then back to Mr. Brackett that way. So this is the advanced question they were given. Some people have referred to the structure of our city government as an unusual hybrid of governance. How well, in your view, does Muscatine's charter, or do Muscatine's charter and current ordinances regarding mayor, council, and city administrator serve the interests of the people of Muscatine? What changes, if any, would you favor?
Thank you, Dan. There seems to be a lot of confusion about our form of government, and I'm not quite sure why. It is spelled out quite clearly in the charter code and on the city's website that we have a mayor-council form of government with a city administrator. There are some, apparently including some of our council members and staff, that seem to believe we have a council management form of government. In fact, again last night, I had another local businessman tell me that we have a council manager form of government, and that simply isn't true. And I wonder where they're getting this idea. The way our charter and code was originally written when the office administrator was formed, we have what is considered by the National League of Cities as a strong mayor. They're the CEO of the city. They have appointment powers. They have veto powers. They preside over council meetings, etc. To say our mayor has very limited powers and should just cut ribbons and kiss babies is disingenuous and a contradiction to our charter and code. Our form of government served us well for quite a while, and it serves many cities quite well, as long as our elected officials and administrators follow the code and refrain from altering or subverting said code. I'm not sure why the code wasn't followed for years on the appointment of people for committees, but amending the code and changing mayoral powers and duties and amending the code giving the administrator more responsibility and power is in essence changing the form of government we have. The council and the administrator do not have the authority to change the form of government. That power is reserved to the citizens and voters of Muscatine. I and most that I have talked to want the charter code restored and followed, and I hope they will make their voices heard on election night. Thank you.
Mr. Natvig.
Thank you, Dan. The state of Iowa allows cities to choose from one of 8 government structures. Muscatine has had what's called a special charter structure since 1851. That's before my time. In 1968, the City Council added a city administrator to manage overall city operations, prepare the budget, and advise them on day-to-day matters. Iowa Code allows special charter cities to utilize a mayor-council format and to delegate by ordinance responsibilities to an administrator. This is the most common format in Iowa. In 1968, the city budget was $2 million. Today, the overall budget is $55 million. Our city is a large operation. Given the size and complexity of our city government, we need a professional administrator to navigate operational, financial, legal, and regulatory challenges. Our city council sets policies and provides oversight. In turn, the city administrator and staff have the training and skills to oversee operations, finances, and develop long-range comprehensive plans. I think we have an ideal blend of 2 at-large council members and a council member from each of the 5 wards, allowing citizens a voice from their own neighborhood. We've had many council members, mayors, and administrators over the past 50 years, but our form of government has served us well. I recommend no changes to our long-held structure. Thank you.
Mr. Brackett.
Thank you, Dan. So I feel our special charter is appropriate. It's intended to provide continuity from one administration to the next. And by having an unelected individual managing the day-to-day operations of the city while placing the burden of authority, planning, and oversight on elected officials. Our society is built on checks and balances. Elected officials should speak for the people, and in doing so should be the ones who are making the final decisions. This allows the people to elect new officials if they feel corrections and judgment need to be made. I think we need to continually monitor the changes made to city code to ensure that it does not transform into something different. People have expressed concerns that too much authority has been transferred to an unelected position. If that is the case, it needs to be corrected. In my own review, I would like to investigate the possible benefit to separating the roles of city administrator and city clerk. My concern is that combining these roles creates a possible conflict of interest, as well as placing too many roles on one person, regardless of that person's qualifications. And in fact, the question tonight had to be altered due to some confusion because originally it was stated as city clerk and not city administrator, when in fact those currently are the same person. And in that's my answer to that. So thank you very much.
Let's go across now to Mr. Crumley.
I wish to echo some of the same sentiments that were presented, that our city charter has been in effect since the mid-1800s, and there's only 4 cities in the state of Iowa that have this special charter, and among those are Muscatine, Davenport, Comanche, and Wapello. And the reason for that special charter is so that we can develop our riverfront and basically stop flooding and catastrophes from like that happening. So we have that say. Iowa Code 372.12 and 372.4 allow this special charter cities to utilize a mayor-council form of government. And like has been stated, this is the most popular, most used form of government in the state of Iowa. We have 7 council members. 5 of them are elected by the ward. 2 of them are elected at large. And the mayor is elected at large. So I believe that this is a good balance, and it has served our community well for a very long period of time. In 1968, the Muscatine did determine that we needed a city administrator. And with the growth that Muscatine has had, I think that was a good thing, because we do have a budget that is approaching $60 million and over 200 employees working for the city. To have a part-time person working that position, I think would be a problem, as I wouldn't want to have a part-time store director at Hy-Vee. I don't think we should have a part-time person doing the city administration.
Mr. Freitag?
The original charter of Muscatine, Iowa was approved February 1st, 1851. Before the adoption of the 1857 state constitution, amendments were made to it by the legislature. The original charter states that we have a mayor, council, and clerk form of governance. Over the years since the city hired its first administrator, the previous councils have relinquished their elected responsibilities to the administrator. In my view, just by talking to folks in the 4th Ward, the people feel like they have no longer have a voice. I totally favor going back to the mayor, council, and clerk city form of government.
Mr. Murray?
Having this revised back in 1968 for a $2 million budget, and now we're approaching, $60 million almost, in the mid-50. I'm not for or against the format. I believe that we can revise and make sure everything's current to our current structure and what we have for our budget and our population, and make sure everyone understands the format and reassure the voters and the citizens that we're doing our best and all our ordinances meet state code, and to make everybody happy and understand that we're all working together on the same page. And that's, I think, the biggest issue is making sure everybody understands the format and what the policies and procedures are. And if we have that in place, I think everything else will fall into place.
Ms. Brockert?
Thank you. I echo Mr. Murray's sentiments. I think this charter that was begun in the 1800s has served us very well. There has been some confusion lately over the city clerk versus city administrator, and I do think we need a professional in that capacity with the education and knowledge that having as huge a budget as what Muscatine does requires. It's not just for any lay person off the street. You can't go outside and hire a city administrator. But then on the other hand, I feel that maybe some of the responsibilities that have been visited on that position should be reviewed, and maybe, possibly split that job into 2, make some city clerk, some city administrators, so the administrator's better able to concentrate on the things that really require his or her attention. Thank you.
Mr. Raywald?
Thank you, Dan. I found the question a little curious when it said unusual and hybrid form of governance. Virtually every city and town over a population of 1,000 in the state of Iowa has this form of government with some small variations from town to town. Professional management is absolutely necessary, and it's not just a function of the dollars, but to manage 200 people on a part-time basis is not practical. And the third part that is really difficult and complicated are the regulatory components of everything we do. And well-meaning volunteers just don't have any background in that and wouldn't know how to do it. We're making a minor change on one curb on the Mississippi Drive project, and it will take 18 months going through 2 federal agencies to get that done. And I don't think a well-intentioned volunteer mayor would have any idea how to do that. So professional management is the only practical thing, and as I say, every town over 1,000 in Iowa essentially has the same form, and it works. Thank you.
Mr. Malcolm?
I think this is an interesting question and comment. I apologize. I didn't really get into it. Maybe it was a good thing I didn't really get to dissect this like I really wanted to because of what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks. The city council mayor are like a business that runs a regular corporation. The mayor is the CEO, chief operating officer, and the council members are board of directors. We talk, we meet, we do what's best for the people, the shareholders, and we have professionals who assist us doing that. Key word, the professionals assist us in doing that, not them telling us what we can and can't do. They suggest and we decide what we want to do and say, this is what we've collectively decided, you do that. I think that guidelines or maybe the boundaries need to be better drawn so you understand that the city administrator, city clerk, or these are your duty responsibility. It's nice that it's in the code, but how about a regular job description that any reasonable person that doesn't understand legalese can read it, and understand this is what you do and this is what you can't do, and these are the people you respond to and report to. And the people that we should always be reporting to is the people who elected you to the seats. Those are the people you represent, the shareholders. And that's my position with this. I think it's just something that's missing, customer service, true customer service.
Thank you all. Let's drill into the topic a little bit further. Now we're into 1-minute questions. The candidates got no preparation for this. We have a question, city ordinance, we're going to focus on the role of the mayor this time. City ordinance says the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city, but many say ours is a weak mayor system, so-called weak mayor. A ribbon-cutting cheerleader. How do you envision the proper role of the mayor? Let's start with Mr. Freitag. In 1 minute.
I think that the mayor should be able to interact with the people freely without permission. I think that she should be able to voice her opinion a little bit more than what she's able to now. She shouldn't have to ask permission for coffee dates. I think she's pretty restricted right now.
Okay, Mr. Murray.
I believe the mayor should be able to voice her concerns or his concerns to the citizens and listen to the citizens' concerns also. If you have a city administrator or clerk that's busy running the city operations and making sure everything's functional, the mayor, I believe, is the liaison between the city hall and the citizens. And I believe that being involved with the citizens and being able to talk to them at any time that they want is very important to ensure the comfort of the citizens and to make sure the mayor does have a role in the boards and the police and fire chief. I do believe the mayor should have, control over that. That's checks and balances. Not everything's on one thing.
Ms. Brockert, please.
I believe the role of the mayor needs to be a little bit stronger than what it is according to the powers and duties in 172 currently. The mayor ought to be able to have a voice. Currently, the mayor has no vote, which I'm not sure why that is, but it's there. The mayor needs to be able to be the communication point from citizens who have concerns, who, you know, can't get in touch with their own alderman or council person, and they want to talk with someone immediately.
Mr. Crumley.
I think calling the mayor, or assuming that the mayor is just a ribbon cutter, it minimalizes that. I think the mayor's job is much more important, being a conduit between the council and the citizens. The mayor can be approached by a citizen with a concern. They may not know exactly what the answer would be, but they could give the information on where to direct that concern. And I don't think that that's minimalizing that position at all. That's a very important position, because people are coming to you with their concerns, and you are doing your best to make sure that their concerns are addressed.
Mr. Malcolm.
Once again, we go back to the corporation side of the house. I'm a little touchy with this because I just left an environment where I was for disaster services. I never talked to any city council people while I was there providing emergency services. I spoke with mayors, and they had power and authority to do what they needed for their people. And I think our mayor should be able to be like the vice president is with the U.S. Senate. She's the tiebreaker. She's the orchestrator to make sure things are decided and flow properly. And she speaks and represents the people and makes sure things are getting done and find out why this is not working like it should. And I don't see that, because since I've been here, I've heard let's impeach the mayor, and I don't know why. Nobody's really answered my question about that either. So I think she should have her job and be fully able to vote and act as a mayor the way the rest. I'm sure that the people in Puerto Rico kind of are fond of their mayor right now. She stood up to the President of the United States.
Mr. Raywald.
In addition to the duties that are laid out by the code, which I don't think are frivolous at all, it's important to have an ambassador to citizens and visitors. There's another function the mayor can perform, and that is with the town's best bully pulpit, to organize activities outside the government, to rally a citizens group to say, this year let's plant 10,000 trees and next year let's plant 15,000 trees. As a community project, volunteers, raise some money, get it done. There are lots of things the mayor can do, or if they choose not to do. But there's plenty of things the mayor can do, and and I believe the way it is right now is the way it should be. Thank you.
Mr. Nadvig.
Yes, I want to follow up from Malcolm's comment about tie-breaking abilities. We talked about the mayor-council format, which is in fact the most common across the state, and there's many, many subtle variations on that general format. But within all of them, the mayor either has a tie-breaking authority or a veto authority, but at no time do they have both. So the state law does provide for the mayor's authority within that format. Our city code and state law outline some specific duties of the mayor, since it's obvious to all presiding over meetings. That's an important function. Signing ordinances, the mayor after each meeting usually signs the things that we vote on. But more than anything, I think the mayor is an ambassador for our town, for our city, and for visiting dignitaries and guests, and really represents the face of our city, and should be positive about what we have to offer here, and always selling our community.
Mr. Brackett.
Okay. So, yeah, I feel that the ambassador role, you know, cheerleader, as some people have called it, is not a bad thing, but something that the mayor should do. But in addition to that, there are the other responsibilities. There, as others have mentioned, presiding over the meetings, making sure that the formats are followed there, but also driving different programs, different ideas, pushing things forward, having a say in projects that come up, And I understand that the council is who makes decisions on that, but I think that we need to have more drive from the mayor's seat in what goes on in the city. I also feel that one of the things that I've seen overlooked frequently in the description is that during an emergency, the mayor has certain powers that most people don't even realize, that you can be deputized by the mayor during an emergency, and if you don't, then you have actually committed a crime if you don't obey the mayor at that point. And people overlook that. That's something that I think that the city staff should definitely work with the mayor on to make sure that they're prepared for a situation like that. Thank you.
Mr. Dennison.
Already, excuse me, I already touched on some of this in my, during the second question, so I'm going to try to elaborate a little bit more on some things. Here is our code for the mayor, their description of duties. The mayor shall be the chief executive officer. And that's pretty much it. Then a paragraph about, the rest of the paragraph goes on to describe some other things. I assume that most people know what a chief executive officer is, and they're the big cheese. They're the head honcho. They oversee everything. They don't answer to subordinates, and they don't need permission from subordinates to talk to other department heads or whatever. And that's something, when I was talking about altering the code, here's the original code when the administrator was formed, and the provision that an elected official or the mayor has to talk to the city administrator in order to talk to anybody does not appear there. That is something that's been added at some point, and those are the things I was talking about. But if people can't figure out what a chief executive officer is or does, maybe we need to elaborate in our code. And I mean, because here's like Keokuk's, we got that one paragraph. Here's Keokuk, who has a city mayor, council, city administrator. There's this 4 pages long about the duties of the mayor. 4 pages, very explicit about what the mayor can do and can't do. So we're not leaving it up to a city administrator and a city attorney to, put their version of what a chief executive officer should do. So I think we need to clear that up, and so we don't have this confusion moving forward, and we never have to have an event like we had this year. So, thank you.
And it's that event, or those events, that have us focusing on questions like this rather than some of the others that we should be getting on to. At the risk of belaboring it too much, I'm going to go one more here about the mayor. And if you feel you've already covered it, feel free not to use an entire minute. Starting with Mr. Raywald. In the past 2 years, controversy has swirled around this one. What is appropriate interaction between mayor and city staff? What is appropriate interaction between mayor and the public?
I don't believe there are any particular restrictions between the mayor and the public. It states very clearly in one sentence in the code that the city members of the city council and the mayor are restricted from communications with the staff. And the reason is abundantly simple. If you work for the city, you want one boss, not 9 bosses. You can't have 9 people telling a member of the staff what to do or what not to do or where to put the sign or please stop doing this or that. That's the simple reason for it. And it makes perfect sense to me. Thank you.
Mr. Malcolm.
I think that as an elected official, I should be able to walk in and ask the department head questions about something. I have questions, or some resident has asked me a question, and I need to be able to get a correct answer to go back and respond to their question or seeking help. And if I cannot talk with people, I have to go to first person, third person. I spend an entire day trying to get an answer that should take less than 5 minutes. Would probably frustrate me. It probably shouldn't be necessary. It's not required. I mean, if the United States government seems to be able to function without this problem, why is a little community like Muscatine requiring this? I don't think any of the elected officials are trying to take over their jobs or being their boss, even though we're an elected official. We are their boss. But, I'm just saying, I should be able to ask you a question and get an answer, not telling you what to do. If I need something to do, I'll talk to your department head or the administrator and say, this is what I need help with.
Mr. Murray.
I believe that the mayor should be able to contact department heads and talk to them freely. I mean, talking to the meter maid or the sanitation employees, I don't think going around each individual employee is proper, but going to the department heads over waste management, over public works, parks and recs, community development, I mean, that communications is very important, and if you don't have a structure, you're not going to be successful. And I really think that following that a structure will be positive, and having somebody that's their mayor and that's what they want to talk to and that's who they voted for, and they want to have that ability to talk. And you know, they, like Malcolm said, it shouldn't take 20 days or 10 days or 5 hours to get an answer for a street problem or, you know, anything around the city. So it's very important to have that ability to be able to talk to the chain of command in the city.
Ms. Brockert.
I too believe it's important that the mayor be able to ask questions of a department head, not necessarily give orders or instructions, but to ask questions and forward the answers that those department heads have to those who have asked the question originally.
Mr. Crumley.
I would have to echo that same sentiment. It's one thing trying to direct a department when the job has been given to the city administrator, and I can understand the confusion that a department head might have by essentially having 9 bosses. So the city administrator should work with the mayor, and if the mayor has a question, they can ask that question, but not necessarily direct that policy. They should be able to discuss that with the city administrator and with the council on ideas so that that can be worked together toward a common goal that benefits the town.
Mr. Freitag.
So this goes back to what I stated earlier as far as previous councils relinquishing their elected responsibilities to the administrator. At one time, I believe back in the 70s, they had a place for the department heads to sit along that wall, and they were part of each council meeting, and I believe at the end of each meeting they were asked if they had anything or present anything. You know, I think that needs to be brought back, and I think that they should be able to contact not only the mayor, but they should also be able to converse with council. I think that's very important.
Mr. Brackett.
Okay, so some of my opinion has been echoed already in some format, but I feel that the mayor should be able to speak to individuals in city staff, individuals in the public. I don't think that there should be restrictions on the mayor speaking with anyone. I do feel that it makes the most sense for directions, for for things that tasks that are assigned to come through the city administrator in the current format that we have. But I don't see any reason there should be a restriction from the mayor speaking to individuals, both in the staff and in public. And in fact, I think that the mayor's coffee with the mayor that have been going on that has gotten some flack from the current council is something that I would encourage. I would encourage the entire council to hold meetings like that with the public, to give the public the ability to speak in a less formal environment, to express some of their concerns and get their opinions across that way. Thank you.
Mr. Dennison.
It's interesting you brought that up, Kelsey, because it kind of amazes me. I've lived in a lot of different places, and it amazes me how Muscatine's like the only city I've seen that doesn't hold ward meetings, monthly ward meetings, so that their people, their constituents, have an opportunity to meet with them and express their concerns in a more relaxed environment. I don't know how many people have spoke to, at a city council meeting. I mean, sometimes you feel like you're on trial, and it's hard to relax and feel like you're being heard or whatever. So, I mean, to me, those ward meetings are huge. I got off the subject there, but he brought that up. I'm sorry. But, the provision, once again, that I brought up that was added, and I can't get a straight answer on when it was added, that wasn't originally in the charter and code. I don't have a problem with part of it, that council members should not give orders to any such department heads or employees, either publicly or privately. you know, like everybody's pretty much in agreement on, you know, the department heads and employees can't have 8 bosses, or would it be 9 or 10 anyway, but, so, and I don't think that's a state law in Iowa. I know some states actually have that as a state law, that council members cannot give orders to. South Carolina being one of them. So I have a problem with that provision, and like I said, it was something added, and when I'm talking about restoring the charter and code, that's one of the things I'm talking about. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Mr. Natvig.
Well, I think maybe this rigid approach by the administrator on what the mayor could or couldn't do probably arose from the mayor talking to department heads about things that the administrator thought maybe was not routine. I agree with Nadine that asking a department head a question or clarification seems reasonable to me. I'm just speculating. I really don't know really what precipitated the harder approach to it, although I do think that we don't want the mayor going across lines and saying, you know, to the public works manager, next week I think you should be working on this or something like that. I mean, operational things should be clearly through organization lines of communication.
Thank you. Now let's take a question about the city administrator. Whether, and the council, whether or not it's fair, there's a common complaint that professional staff sets agendas and makes all the real decisions, that the council is a rubber stamp. What do you say to this perception? Let's start with Mr. Brackett. One minute.
All right, so on that, I feel that some of that perception comes from the misunderstanding about where a lot of decisions are made during the council meetings. A lot of that is done at the budget planning session at the beginning of the year. And so a lot of those decisions have already been made, so it is just a rubber stamp, but not in a negative way. That being said, there are a lot of things that go through the council meetings that I have not been able to just ascertain where the decision was made, where the discussion was had, or why the public wasn't more informed on it. Thank you.
Mr. Dennison.
Repeat the question again, please.
Yeah. Whether or not it's fair, there's a common complaint that professional staff sets agendas and makes all the real decisions, that the council is a rubber stamp. What do you say to this perception?
Well, since you used the word perception, apparently there's some things going on that people would have that perception. Whether it's true or not that happens, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what goes on in meetings behind closed doors or whatever, but certainly I can understand why people have that perception, because some of the things Kelsey said, and some things seem like they're just sprung on us, and there's no discussion at a council meeting about it. An amendment's just brought, or an ordinance or amendment or whatever is just brought up, and they vote on it, and there's discussion, crickets. And so, I mean, that doesn't help the perception that a lot of the stuff is done and just rubber stamped. And so whether it's true or not, I think the perception needs to be changed, and there's ways to do that. Oh, I thought you said stop. Which one? No.
Thank you. Mr. Natvig?
I don't think that could be further from the truth. Anybody that listens to some of our meetings, there's some spirited discussions on a lot of topics. Now, one thing that might bring on that perception is there's background information on all these topics, and the public can, if they go online, there's links to those background discussions. And oftentimes we've read that thoroughly. I always study the agenda thoroughly in advance of every meeting, and I've pretty much know what I'm going to decide when I get there, but I may be swayed by other councilmen, their take on a current issue, but I think we're anything but a rubber stamp.
Mr. Malcolm?
Yeah, Kelsey brought up a very good point, and he just said something that got my attention. Can't assume that everybody has computer access. Can't assume everybody knows how to read or write. So to make it fair for everybody, we need to make it where maybe have something open for discussion where people could come and ask the questions. It doesn't have to be a formal meeting. Just say, well, we'll have somebody to sit here and answer because we're going to discuss this and we need to hear your opinion. We need to come up with a way to get people more actively involved, because right now, the perception is, yeah, it's a rubber stamp, you just do whatever and they don't care about anybody else, and it makes the adults feel like they're not adults and that you're an adult and you're making their decisions for them instead of getting their input. There's no way I'm going to vote for something once I'm elected for the second ward and I haven't talked to the community first. It won't happen.
Sorry. Mr. Raywold.
I believe the perception is incorrect. We spend a tremendous amount of time in the first of the year in budget hearings, and that no one ever attends. But things are really hashed out there a lot as far as expenditures, et cetera. And in the meetings, the regular 3 meetings per month, everything doesn't just whiz through. You can go to the website, and if you click through, you can see all the same background things that we get. It isn't just the agenda. You click through those things and lots of information comes up. So we're well prepared before a meeting when it comes to the facts that we need, the dollars and cents that we need to know. There's not a rubber stamp situation in my mind. Thank you.
Ms. Brockert.
Excuse me, I too can understand why the perception is there, because if all you just see is the printed form of the agenda for the city council meetings, all you've got is this line that, so if you were on a computer, you could click on it and you could drill down and find out what's actually going on. So perhaps as a council person, I could take these things that are coming up to be voted on to the folks in Fourth Ward and have them, you know, sit down, talk with them, get their opinions, and then vote accordingly.
Mr. Crumley.
The council's role is to set strategy and to represent the people in their ward. With that comes the communication that you must communicate that with the people in your ward, those you are representing, because that strategy is not a rubber stamp. That strategy does change, and the city administrators and the staff are responsible for implementing that strategy. So I think there is a misconception that a lot of the things are done by non-elected officials, but the elected officials do set the strategy for the city administrator to follow through.
Mr. Freitag.
I can also see why the presumptions have been made. People only see what they are presented by the current council, and the people of the Fourth Ward feel like they've been ignored.
Mr. Murray.
I think the key word is perception. I mean, if the perception and rubber stamp is out there, and when I'm walking around talking to people, they all have that perception. The question is why hasn't anybody tried to make that better? And like Malcolm said, not everybody has internet and computers. And have we made an effort to make sure everybody understands? Because when I watch city council meetings, I get confused sometimes in the consent agenda and things just get voted on, and I'm looking at it's like, I can't make it. I mean, as a citizen, not every citizen watches the city council meeting, and then when they do watch, you're voting on something, they have no clue what you're voting on, and they don't know. They just want more clarity, and we're too busy streamlining and trying to get everything going fast, and not taking the time to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Thank you. Let's change the subject a little bit. The recent study of housing found that 60% of the workers in Muscatine drive into town to work and then leave town to live. What do you see as the biggest stumbling block stopping people from living here? How can we encourage people to move to Muscatine? Mr. Raywald.
We need more and different kinds of housing, and that report is going to help us decide how to best use and promote and develop the land that we have in Muscatine, and of course outside the Beltway, the bypass. There's another thing that I was just recently made aware of, that there's a rating service that rates the school systems in every community. And for reasons unbeknownst to me or anyone else, Muscatine has been rated the same as Watts, California, Detroit, Michigan, and another garden spot that I don't recall. So people look in this directory and think, oh my God, I'm not going to go there. And we're in the process, some volunteers are in the process of getting that corrected. And that's going to help bring a lot of people to town who now think, oh, not the place for me and my kids. So it's a combination of housing and some bad information that we're in the process of correcting.
Mr. Malcolm?
Mr. Raywald, all he needs to do is ask for a copy of the report and he'll know why they rated you that way. Muscatine, as I've been out talking with citizens, everybody's said key words. Need low to moderate income housing for younger people who are going to school, working part-time, and starting their lives. Other people who are more matured and subtle said they're having problems with the fact there's nothing to do entertainment-wise for them. There's a limited movie theater, there's no concerts, there's no theater vineyards. Eating is limited to fast food. People would like to sit down and have a family dinner. There's various different things, just more activities. If you are somebody who's fond of alcoholic beverages, 2nd Street is the place. But the rest of the city is challenged. And that's one of the things I like to see. Can we bring in some economic development, make it more family, younger family enrichment, but even also more activities just for, you know, we have a lot of good starts, but museums, the cemetery that everybody's been complaining about, that young man was putting the steps in, make that a national thing so people can come see the cemetery. You know, we're supposed to be the pearl of the Mississippi. Come see the pearl. Tourism.
Mr. Crumley.
I think that Muscatine has a lot to offer. One thing that comes to mind directly is our history. I think that needs to be promoted a little better. 2 names that specifically come to mind are Norman Baker and Mark Twain. Love him or hate him, Norman Baker was known worldwide. I think that there are people who would actually come here, might even decide to settle here once they see what kind of community that we have if our history is promoted a little bit better. But I also do not see necessarily those people coming from out of town to work in Muscatine. We do need to have more housing and more things like that. But those people coming to Muscatine, they're buying gasoline in our town, they're buying lunch in our town, they're spending their money in our town. And that, we should be able to promote something to those folks while they're in the town for that time while they're working, so that they would want to come here.
Okay.
Mr. Freitag.
I would have to agree with Oz. We need affordable, low-rent housing. I know the current project that they've got, that they're building out north of town is $1,200 per month, I believe, per unit, and that's pretty steep. It would be nice to build some of these units in the south end of town. That area is really ripe for development down there. There's plenty of area that we could develop.
Mr. Murray?
My opinion on getting development of housing is, first you got the demand is there. The cost of living here is expensive. Rent is high for a 2-bedroom apartment. Is $650, $700 a month, and that's pretty steep for a single parent with a kid trying to have a 2-bedroom apartment. Trying to figure out how to get that housing in here is something that the city we need to figure out how to do together and promote to get low income, not low income, but lower affordable housing. And then to try to get people to stay here is the trick, because when they come into work, they have their shutter on, they know where they're going to eat, and they're in a routine, and then they go home. They don't, much as we try and advertise and do great things downtown shuts down at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, most of these businesses are closed. Open till 6 maybe. There's a few open a little bit later, but there's nothing to keeping them down here, and that's where we're not going to attract anybody to come down here and stay and want to live here, because there's nothing to do. And we need to figure that out and advertise and make sure people know where downtown is, because when they pull into Walmart up to 6138, they don't know, it says business district. You go anywhere it says business district, you assume it's just businesses that close at 5, and we need to just advertise it all.
Ms. Brockert.
This is a problem that isn't new, and it probably won't be solved tomorrow. We do need better restaurants in town, maybe not necessarily the chains, but, you know, things like DeBeats, more of those. I know I worked at a company where a lot of our professionals worked in Muscatine, down on the island, and then they went home to Davenport or Iowa City. There's really no way that we can provide the activities, the university games, the museums and things that are available in the Quad Cities and Iowa City, but we do have museum of our own, several of them, that we could maybe promote a little better and get people more interested in it's just sticking around here and seeing what it is we have to offer.
Mr. Dennison.
I've heard it said numerous times that the health of a city's downtown is key to the strength of the community. And there's a lot to be said for that. When you're looking to move to Muscatine and you drive through a downtown, or to any town, and you drive through a downtown and you see, you know, boarded up windows and, you know, a lot of empty storefronts or whatever, you're not thinking that's a real vital downtown and a place you might want to live. We're making all kinds of strides downtown, and that's exciting. And I think hopefully I'll get a chance to assist in keeping that progress going and getting our downtown to be something we can really be proud of and really is going to draw some people into the town. When people, we get back to the perception thing, when people's thinking about moving to Muscatine, I mean, everybody's talked about the housing, and I agree with most of it. You know, they do a Google search, and they see class action suits and mayor ousted and that type of stuff. That stuff, you know, we've got to solve those problems so people will want to come to this community. They see those type of things, and they're like, oh, that's where I want to be. And so hopefully we can keep working on those things and improving those things and make this a town that people want to come to and put their roots down and call home.
Mr. Natvik.
I was glad to hear Carrie say downtown revitalization, because I think we're seeing that happen right in front of our very eyes, and I think that's a factor in retaining people or bringing people to live and work here. I did a lot of professional recruitment. I know what some of those people are looking for in the quality of life. But I think as far as housing goes, we need different housing options across all income levels, as the study is pointing out to us. Schools are another factor in people living and working here. But I think we have a lot to offer in quality of life here. Our trail system is just outstanding, and it's getting even better. So I'm optimistic about the future.
And Mr. Brackett.
Okay. Yeah, I think our biggest issue is an advertising problem. Really, we have a lot of great things here in Muscatine. There's a lot of great things going on. There are a lot of people that are driven to make the community better. The downtown, that's a great thing to point out. The downtown has changed a lot since I've been here, and it went from being, you know, mostly boarded up when I first moved here to a very vibrant, very active downtown. There might be a little bit of an imbalance there, but that type of thing works itself out. The other thing that was mentioned was, you know, lawsuits, class action lawsuits. Well, having the lowest air quality in the state for a very long time, that doesn't help our image either. So fixing that's something that'll help. The other thing, the housing, having expensive housing is the only option to enter into. That doesn't bring new people to town. It doesn't let people move out of homes that can be revitalized into a little higher income housing. So when we call low income housing $800 a month, I don't see that as appropriate. And giving TIF dollars to projects where they're going to come in and say, well, yeah, well, it's low income housing, there's no Section 8, but it's $800 a month. I don't find that acceptable. So those are the things we need to fix.
Next question, 1 minute. What do you see as pros and cons of the proposed container port? What mix of public-private cooperation and control do you favor? Let's start with Mr. Freitag.
I have no idea what that is.
The container port. Mr. Murray?
The port, I think is a good thing, but I really want to make sure that we look at it all the way thoroughly and make sure we don't miss anything and approve it and go forward with it, and then we forget something that makes people regret it. Bringing jobs and something else to make Muscatine stand out is always a plus. People have down Fourth Ward have brought up that, you know, they don't want higher crime rate, they don't want more people traveling through, and they get concerned with more traffic and ruining, you know, what they have down there already. But we have to give and take if we want to develop the south end and make it a better place. So I really think it's a positive thing as long as we are thorough and we make sure we have everything, you know, crossed and dotted.
Ms. Brockert?
The thought of a port made my old distribution scheduler ears perk up, because that would have saved me a lot of headaches in my working days. I think it's a fantastic idea. Done correctly, it'll be a wonderful idea, but done badly, it could be a disaster. I'm thinking that I was told by the city administrator, because I had a meeting with him and we discussed the port project, and he said that public-private would remove most of the risk from the public sector and put it all on the private sector. We would have to ensure that the infrastructure is adequate for that site. We have to make sure the permitting goes through, that nothing unforeseen will come up like Illinois mud turtles or Indian artifacts or anything else of the like that would stop the project.
Mr. Natvig?
Yes, I've always also had some discussions about this port with city staff, and first of all, I think it promises to be a big boost for our local economy. And like Nadine mentioned, a public-private arrangement would be excellent, with the city providing the infrastructure to the fence line of the facility, and private industry providing the investment inside the facility. Basically, is the arrangement that I'm understanding makes the most sense as far as economic feasibility and not allowing another level of government in that could actually levy its own additional taxes.
Mr. Brackett?
Did you get Vance on this one?
Did I miss you, Vance?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. It's my understanding that it is a private venture, and that does take a lot of risk away from the burden, away from the city government. And it is the city government's responsibility to provide infrastructure, emergency services, make sure that the sewer lines are working properly. And I believe that would be a huge boost to companies like that ship worldwide. Han, GPC, Monsanto, I think all of those big companies would benefit from a project like that. And I think it is the council's responsibility to make sure it's done properly, to get the proper infrastructure set in place so that it can be successful.
I apologize for missing you.
That's okay.
Mr. Brackett?
Okay, so I'm absolutely in favor of a container port in Muscatine. I think it'll bring a lot of jobs, a lot of business, and a lot of finances into the town. Now, I have concerns about it being the public-private partnership. If it's a private entity, it should be a private entity, and they should, pay their way. But if they want public dollars, then I think that the public should have a little bit more say in it. I think that we need to protect the employees that will be there, make sure that we're bringing good jobs, not dangerous jobs, not jobs that are low paying, and make sure that people are protected. I also have concerns about the amount of resources that it'll require from the city. So if it is a private partnership where all the profits are going to a private corporation, how is the city, compensated to pay for all of the extra resources? Might say taxes, but will it be enough? I don't know. If we have a port authority in place, then that can be managed properly. Thank you.
Mr. Dennison?
both my opponents make some good points, and I haven't looked into it as much as they have, and I know somewhat about it. The big concern I have is that the land they're proposing for it still has not been annexed into Muscatine. So I don't know why we're wasting resources and man hours and money on property that's not in Muscatine. Let's not get the cart ahead of the horse. If they want public assistance or whatever in infrastructure to the port, they should be kicking in money to the coffers now, so it's just not coming out of your pocket. So I think I wouldn't have much more discussion about it until it is annexed into the city.
Mr. Malcolm?
Short and easy, I agree with Kelsey's point of view. I'm a little leery of forming it in a partnership, so-called partnership. In the past, I've seen that happen, and the public always loses. Not good. Taxpayers always end up eating the bullet, and the public people, the private people tend to go to Vegas or Hawaii on their planes. I think Port Authority is the better way to go. That way, you can ensure OSHA regulations and things are required. Also, the quality of pay will be regulated state and federally wise, and it will get a better return on investment. Sure, we can get involved from the municipal point of view, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of infrastructure that's going to be required to help them bring in their heavy equipment and trucks in and out of there. So, but then we can talk about that after it's covered to protect us.
Mr. Raywald?
I'm excited about it. The economic history of Muscatine is pretty simple. The first wave was lumber. As that dissipated, the button industry grew and was a driver. And as that faded away, we were graced with some people who ended up here accidentally, like Max Stanley and Roy Carver and Gage Kent. They could have gone any town. They happened to come here. And they started industries which are now, in the positive sense, mature, which is a good thing. And I think this port and all the logistics center that would come around it and with it, that's the next wave of prosperity for Muscatine. And I think it's wonderful. I'll do everything I can to help promote it.
Let's go to closing remarks. Again, 1 minute. And Mr. Raywald, let's start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. It's been a good 4 years. I was helpful in protecting the Iowa field from any changes in the future. It's kind of locked in stone now. The issue that amazed me that was most important when I ran before was the fact that the council had prevented the firefighters' boot drive from continuing. And that was, people were really angry about that. And we have that changed. We've got a really good story to tell in the city of Muscatine. My first priority will always be public safety. Our ambulance service is award-winning. Before you can apply for a job at the fire department, you have to attain the highest level of EMT training there is before you can even apply. It's a top-notch outfit, and the police have done a good job of maintaining communications with different parts of the community. I think we're on the right track. Thank you.
Mr. Malcolm?
I take you back real quick. Back when I was younger and I first started driving, you would go to a place with your car and you pull in, and that guy or a woman would greet you, and they had a little shirt on with their name on it, and they'll say, "Hi, may I help you?" And you say, "Can you fill it up?" And they would say, "Okay," and they put the thing in. They start wiping the windshield for you, wipe the back windshield, and they'll come and say, "Can I check your oil?" And you say yes or no. And then they finish, and when they finish pumping the gas, you look in the little mirror on the side, you see this person taking a towel and wiping around where their hand touched to put the cap back in. And they come and say, "While I was pumping your gas, I checked your tires. Their pressure's good, but your front tire looks a little shaky. Can you come back and let me rotate them for you when you have time?" That's customer service. going above and beyond. And most of us are young enough in here to understand what that was like. That's what I'm offering here. I want to bring back true customers. I want to represent the people. I mean, even though I want to represent priority, second ward, that's my people. Those are my folks, as the kids call it. But I would also be representing all of Muscatine, because when you see me, you can't differentiate just, you know, we need to bring back customer service to what the people want. Listen to what the people have to hear. Put your finger on their pulse. They're the engine that drives this city. They're the taxpayers that's paying for all the stuff that's going on, the infrastructures and crumbling sidewalks. Hear what they want and do what they want to do.
Mr. Murray?
I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It was rainy, and everybody watching at home. And I just want to reassure and explain that I have a non-biased way of thinking. I don't have an agenda that's bought by anybody, or I don't owe anybody any favors. I'm here as myself. I'm here to show to my son that you can do whatever you put your effort into, and you can achieve what you need to. My hard work, dependability, and logic is what I offer, and that's what I try to stand behind, and I want to make sure and reassure to all of you that that's what I'm here for, and that's what we need. We need logic, we need dependability, and that's what everybody's been not feeling that we have, and that's what I offer. Thank you.
Ms. Brockert?
Thank you. I believe that not having been a life resident of the Fourth Ward is not a liability in my case, because I have something to compare life in the Fourth Ward and life in Muscatine too, since I grew up in southern Wisconsin. It is rural. It's still rural, 55 years after I left. If you're not here to, if you don't realize the opportunities that Muscatine can afford you, go somewhere else for a while and see what is there, and you'll come back with a much better appreciation of what we have here. I can build consensus. I've been on enough committees and worked with enough people that consensus building is something that I am very well acquainted with. And I think I would make a good council person. I communicate well, and I hope that I will merit a vote from the folks in Fourth Ward.
Mr. Crumley?
I see many people here that are very familiar, because I do work at Hy-Vee. Many of you have dealt with me on a customer service level. Our current mayor, many people up here, many people in the gallery. And I would love to bring that level of customer service to the council. Another one of my strong suits is my time at Hahn, where I have actually worked with people who had differing opinions, but working with those people instead of being a wall against a differing opinion to move forward to get the goal done. And that is something that I wish to bring to the council, and I would really appreciate your vote on November 7th in the Fourth Ward.
Mr. Brackett? Who'd I miss? I'm sorry. You know what I do? I check it off, and then, Mr. Freitag, I'm sorry.
Thank you. This election presents us with a clear choice. It is a choice between continuing things the way they always have been, or electing leaders who can bring fresh, new ideas and perspectives. I believe that my experience and personality will help me offer new ideas. Above all, I believe my most important job will be to listen to the people and communicate with you on a regular basis. As you can see, our future depends on our ability to work together. Cooperation and teamwork will get us far. If you elect me as your Fourth Ward councilman, I vow to lead with openness and honesty. I know that voting for someone requires trust. I am willing to work very hard to earn that trust. It's your voice and your choice. My name is Brian Freitag, and I humbly ask this evening for your vote. Together we can achieve great things. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Brackett?
Okay. I didn't prepare a closing statement, so I'm just going to kind of off the cuff here. I had a good time tonight. I'm glad to see everybody here running, and I hope to see after the election anybody that does not that does not get elected continue to try and drive forward good things in our community. I think we've got a lot of potential, a lot of things moving forward, and I would love to see this energy put towards other projects as well. And I know regardless of what happens, that's what I plan on doing. So thank you.
Mr. Dennison?
Yeah, first I want to say that it dawned on me not too long ago that I've never had to call 911 for emergency medical services in my life, so I'm very fortunate. But a couple weekends ago, we had to call them twice for my father-in-law in one weekend. And I've got to say, I was really impressed with our personnel and our paramedics and the job they did and the manner they did it and their bedside manner and just the information they were able to give us. And we had very positive outcomes. And so I just want to give a shout out to our dedicated emergency and fire people. So now I'm going to talk really fast. So okay, actually I'm going to skip most of this. And I just got the sign put on me. But, I'm just going to end by saying thank you for letting me be here tonight. I thank everybody for stepping forward and trying to serve. And I just want to say we have 4 great events going on this Saturday. Somebody was talking about promotion earlier. The Muskies are hosting a state band competition. The Alzheimer's Walk is at Discovery Park. Oktoberfest is at Weed Park, and second Saturday is happening downtown. Please get out and support these events. Sure. There's something for everyone. And hopefully you'll vote for me on November 7th. Thank you. Have a good night.
And Mr. Nedvig.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Sue, and thank you to the League for hosting this forum. Much has been accomplished while I've had the distinct privilege of serving on Muscatine City Council. Business expansion and investment, which has created good jobs and expanded our tax base. Significant investment by the city to improve roads and community amenities, as I described earlier. Expansion of our fire department and investment in public safety, which benefits everyone in Muscatine. All of these improvements have been accomplished without increasing the city's tax levy. So we have demonstrated fiscally sound growth. I'm excited about the future of Muscatine. Muscatine is my home. It's been an honor for me to serve on City Council, and I would like to continue my public service, as I too know there's much yet to do. And I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you. As you take your seats in the audience, we'll invite our 2 mayoral candidates up here. Sue will seat Charlie Harper. Yes, applause for the candidate. We'll invite Charlie Harper, who's the challenger, and Mayor Diana Broderson, our sitting mayor. Give a minute and a half to each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us why you want to be the mayor of Muscatine. Let's start with Mayor Broderson.
Good evening. I'd like to also thank Mrs. Johansson and Dan and the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, which gives citizens an opportunity to learn about the candidates in this very important upcoming election. I am your mayor, Diana Broderson. I'm also a wife and mother of 6 and very proud grandma of 9. I was born at the Muscatine General Hospital, and I have spent my entire career strengthening families right here in my hometown. For the last 20 years, I've been the Director of Family Programs at the Muscatine YMCA, and I've developed a variety of services designed to empower both individuals and families as a unit. I also serve the community in a variety of volunteer boards and commissions throughout the community, and I represent the City of Muscatine on the Bi-State Regional and Emergency Management Commission. As your mayor, I have worked to strengthen families, advocate for citizens, give everyone a voice, and fight for transparency in our local government. I've coordinated a job fair, held events to keep the Muscatine food pantry stocked, and worked and led projects for our veterans. I've teamed up with mayors across the country to develop and support projects that save our pollinators, because we are all going to depend on them for our very survival. In my tenure, developments have been made to our trail system, our sewer separation project, and the Mississippi Drive Corridor project. We have moved forward with the Muscatine Port and started a new program called Open Gov. There's much more to be done, and I ask for your vote on November 7th, because as your mayor, I will fight for you and what's important to you. Thank you.
Charlie Harper.
Good evening. I'm Charlie Harper. I've lived in my entire life in Muscatine. Muscatine is my home. My wife and I have raised our family in Muscatine, and I'm equally proud to say much of my family still resides in Muscatine, as this is a community they chose to call home. Additionally, my wife and I own and operate a small business in South Muscatine, Harper Cycling and Fitness. I have experience and knowledge of employing people, satisfying customers, and understanding the challenges of business we face. Also being there 52 years, I guess I'm a survivor. The community of Muscatine has been great to my family. I'm proud to call Muscatine my home. Over the years, I've been an active volunteer in Muscatine. My activities have ranged from being on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I've assisted with RAGBRAI all 6 times it's been here. I've been a member of Parks and Recs Advisory Board, and also been at one time was on their church council too. To make our community better, everyone should be involved, helping to make positive changes in a stronger community. It's time to focus on moving Muscatine forward in a positive and optimistic manner. I've been a long-time ambassador of our city. As mayor, I would proudly represent my hometown. Thank you.
Charlie, I'm told that they want your microphone closer to your mouth in the future.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we have the 1.5-minute advance preparation question, same one as the council got. Some people have referred to the structure of our city government as an unusual hybrid of governance. How well, in your view, do Muscatine's charter and current ordinances regarding mayor, council, and city administrator serve the interests of the people of Muscatine? What changes, if any, would you favor? Mayor Broderson.
Okay. Muscatine, as we heard from the councilman, is one of a very small number of cities in Iowa that has a special charter. This special charter has served Muscatine well for quite some time, but over the years it has been chipped away at with various changes that alone may have been beneficial, but have left our charter quite different than the original intent. It no longer has the same flavor or overall foundation that it once held. Checks and balances have been reduced or eliminated, leaving citizens alarmed that too much authority is given to one side or the other without the balance that the charter once held. Citizens cry out that too much authority is given to the city administrator position, which has no direct accountability to the voting public. These concerns are all valid because they're the people's concerns. The people are sovereign. They are the highest authority, and government is based on the will of the people. Responding to the people's voice, their will, is my most important job duty. And if the people are saying that they no longer appreciate the special charter, then it needs to be addressed, because elected officials must be responsive to the people's voice. Government authority flows from the people and is based upon their consent. Participation by the people in their government is what democracy is, and that is a good thing.
Mr. Harper.
Well, this has been mentioned by the others on the council. The special charter has been around for quite some time, so there's no need to beat that. But anyways, this is council mayor forum has been successful for many years, since the early 60s. And there's the checks and balances I feel are there, and I think it can go forward the same as it has been.
I'm going to combine some questions here. They're all about the controversy we've had. Muscatine has been through a difficult period politically. Why should we keep party politics out of city offices? The public image of Muscatine has taken a beating locally, statewide, and nationally. What can you do to repair the damage if elected? What would you do to improve the politically charged atmosphere? Mayor Broderson.
I think continuing to listen to the people's voice is what we all need to work on. This community is owned by the people of Muscatine. They are our highest authority, and when the people speak out and the elected officials are unresponsive to their will, that's when we have problems. And if anything, all of the controversy that we've experienced this past couple of years really has brought forth the people, and they have felt empowered to stand up and speak about what their opinions are and what is important to them. And as we get back to the people's agenda, I think we will realize that we have came full circle. And I think it's a good thing that the people now are willing to stand up. And it's important for us to empower them, certainly not stifle their voice right now, but help lend to their voice and give them permission and empower them to stand up.
Mr. Harper.
I think one of the things is that we have been listening to the people. I don't know if it's all been correctly understood or not. I think some of it going forward, there's been a lot of criticism. There's been some other influential things that's come about here. I think it can all go to the better.
I should have gone to Mr. Harper first on that one, but I will this time. Here are some more concrete questions coming out of the controversy, I would say. I had more than one suggesting replacing the current city administrator. Someone wants to know, what's your opinion of hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on court hearings? And somebody asks about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a city attorney out of Des Moines. Is that justified? If you can make one question out of that about the controversies we've had, do you see any solutions? Mr. Harper.
I think that's a good trick. I think one of the things, I think there's been money unnecessarily spent. I can understand why, why it was spent, because somewhere it's like getting into quicksand. You just keep getting in deeper all the time, and I think that's part of what happened there. I think before, and I don't exactly know why the attorney is out of Des Moines, but before you criticize that, you got to find somebody that's willing or able to serve here in Muscatine. So there may be not anybody that feels they want to be qualified or are qualified. Some of it, there's different types of attorneys, just like you've got a doctor. If you didn't go to the eye doctor to get your hand operated on just because it says doctor, and just because they say attorney, don't mean that necessarily somebody that's in real estate isn't necessarily qualified for municipal law. So I think that's why there's an out-of-town attorney, but that's just my opinion.
Mayor Broderson.
Well, I think certainly anytime you have the opportunity to hire local, it's a good thing. I think we want to make sure that, especially when we're spending our tax dollars, that those dollars are spent here locally and can go back into our economy. When we hire workers from out of town, they take those wages back to their hometown, and that's where those dollars are spent. When we buy goods and services from local people, then they go to our stores. They go to our places of business, and they spend their money there, and the economy continues to thrive in that way. I know when we hired our current city attorney, there were other attorneys who asked for the job and applied for the job, and they were interviewed, and I believe that we should always give precedence to our local workers in everything that we do.
And Mayor, let's start with you on this one. Perhaps you heard the question about housing, the housing study that was asked of council members, and from the audience, somebody wonders about using TIF related to housing or to create jobs, and somebody else asks about tax breaks, maybe that's the same thing, for new housing construction. Let me ask the housing question again. The recent study of housing found that 60% of the workers in Muscatine drive into town to work and then leave town to live. What do you see as the biggest stumbling blocks stopping people from living here? How can we encourage people to move to Muscatine?
I think there are a variety of answers to those questions on the housing study. One of the things regards the TIF question that you were talking about. TIF dollars are spent, are given and supposed to be given so that we can help our economy and help our workers. And one thing that I think that we need to do is more wisely use our TIF credits that we give to our companies and our businesses and the projects that come to us asking for them. We need to make sure that we ask the right questions and that we give those TIF credits to companies that are hiring local, that are paying good wages, and that are going to be doing things that are going to be helping our economy. If we are giving those TIF dollars to companies that are going to be hiring people from out of town, then we are giving them a break on their taxes, which makes more of a burden on the rest of us, and yet we're not seeing those being recouped because the people are going back to their own hometown to use them. We need to more wisely use those TIF dollars and make sure that we're doing it in a way that is going to help our economy and our local taxpayers.
Mr. Harper?
Repeat the question again, please.
Well, about housing, about the housing study and people living out of town and coming to town to work. What do you see as the biggest stumbling block stopping people from living here? How can we encourage people to move to Muscatine?
Housing the price of the housing could be part of it, but also I think it's important to go and have the necessary amenities to make them look like this is a good place to live. You gotta, even if you had the cheapest housing, if there's no amenities around, why, that's soon reason for them to leave, I mean.
Let's go back to some of the controversy. A question we asked the council: what is the appropriate interaction between mayor and city staff? What is appropriate interaction between mayor and public? Mr. Harper.
Listening to between the public, I think it certainly need to be heard. You want to talk to them and reply to their responses, try and find answers to it and answer them all you can. As far as the reporting to staff, I do believe you can talk to them. It's the difference between talking to them and telling them what to do. I think that's part of the issue.
Mayor Broderson.
I have to agree with Mr. Harper. I think that there's a big difference between having conversations with city staff and giving directives. Certainly it makes sense that we don't have a lot of different people giving directives to staff. That should come through one person, and currently it is our city administrator. We all understand that. But to not be able to go and talk to those city staff, that's where you run into problems. The mayor certainly doesn't have a vote on the city council, but the mayor does represent the city and is the city's vote through other areas. So I sit on the Bi-State Regional Commission, the Emergency Management Commission, and while I don't vote here at the city council meetings, I have the one and only vote for the city of Muscatine with regards to our entire region. And so it's very critical that the mayor be able to have open dialogues and communication with our city staff, with our department heads, whenever a need or a question arises, so that they can be properly informed when they are making the city's vote at other organizations and commissions.
And Mayor, let me start with you on this one. Do you believe you sufficiently understand Iowa's open meetings law? Are you committed to its rigorous application?
Absolutely. I think Iowa's open meeting laws are very important. I spent actually all of today and all of yesterday entertaining, if you will, every sixth grader at Central. I had them come through in groups of 20, and I met with each small group of them, and I talked to them quite a bit about the open meetings laws, and I explained to them how our highest form of authority is the people. Muscatine belongs to the people. And so in essence, the people are the boss, if you will. Well, if your boss comes and asks you, what are you doing about this and what are you doing about that? You don't tell your boss none of your business. You tell them what they want to know because they're the boss. The people are the ultimate authority. They need to know everything that their elected officials are doing, everything that's going on in their local government. And not only do they need to know it, but it's the law that they get to know it. And we need to make sure that we adhere to those laws as much as we possibly can.
Mr. Harper?
Repeat.
Open meetings law.
Open meetings law, I believe we should have open meetings law. I'm afraid I'm not really well versed on some of the different effects of it.
And the other part was are you committed to rigorous application of the law?
Well, the open meetings law is some of the rights of the people, and so I do believe that it should have open meetings, and depends what they're, I guess what they're talking about. You know what?
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe this one.
Start with Mr. Harper. When thinking of our future energy needs, what are your thoughts about wind and solar energy for public buildings and alternative fuels and electric for city vehicles?
I guess on the energy, there's different ways to look at it. It depends which side of the fence you're on. I've got a son-in-law that works for a power plant in Rochester, Minnesota. He certainly has an opinion about the wind power. There's different things there. You read about some of them, why they're noisy, and some of the other problems they're causing. You see there where they have the big solar systems there, why they're frying the birds that fly over it, so you get another group that's against it. So no matter which way you go, somebody's going to be opposed, and I don't really think there's any of them that's truly, really bad. Some of it does save amount of money, and it just has to be studied more.
Mayor Broderson, future energy needs, alternatives?
I think we are all committed to making sure that we conserve our natural resources. Similar to the pollinator project that I spoke of earlier, it's so critical that we all make sure that we're doing the things to save our environment. And I think certainly our municipalities, our city, should be taking the lead and setting the example so that families can come alongside and follow us. All of the different ways that we are using to create energy right now is not an unending supply. We've got to be thinking outside of the box. We've got to be figuring out ways that we can conserve energy and save our natural resources, and we can set the example when we do that.
And now, Mayor, first for you. City ordinance says the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city, but many say ours is a weak mayor system, a ribbon-cutting cheerleader. How do you envision the proper role of the mayor?
I think that certainly there should be some education about it. Certainly, I liked some of the comments that were talked about earlier with the councilman and the prospective council positions, that there needs to be some more definitions perhaps in the code. But certainly I think it can go back to education for the people. I don't think a lot of people really understand what the day-to-day job is of the mayor for Muscatine. I don't think that perhaps all of the council knows everything that, as mayor, that I do for the people in our community. Certainly the different things that I do on a region, I meet with all of the mayors up and down the river, and we work on issues that are important and that we have in common, because we don't live in a bubble. we do need to have relationships with the other cities that are around us, because what they do can impact us and vice versa. And there are a lot of things in that way where I represent the city of Muscatine on a larger scale level. Certainly the thing that I do the most and that I enjoy the most is being able to help each and every citizen in Muscatine when they come to me with an issue, and being able to come alongside them and work through whatever their particular concern is and make certain that we come to a resolution as quickly as possible.
Mr. Harper. Oh, let me read this one again. City ordinance says the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city, but many say ours is a weak mayor system, a ribbon-cutting cheerleader. How do you envision the proper role of the mayor?
I can see the part of being an ambassador there. Some of the other stuff, you certainly have responsible people that do know how to go and manage it and operate the thing, and there's some things that we don't really have a lot of experience at, is some of the different management of it, but I think it is work. I don't think it's a weak system.
And let's start with you, Mr. Harper. Residents, that's what I'm doing. Oh, what do you see as pros and cons of the proposed container port? What mix of public-private cooperation and control do you favor?
Some of the things that the candidates brought up, is I think overall it's a good project. Sometimes, like you said, the private part there, they've got to make everything work, or it could fail. But part of the other thing is what is the city going to get back if they got to be successful enough to pay for the infrastructure and the expense that the city is going to. So overall, I think it's a good thing. It's more and more thing of putting Muscatine on the map, and I think that's a good deal.
Mayor, the container port.
I think the container port can be a very good project for our community and can bring a lot of things to our community, certainly both economically, but also as well as jobs and different things like that. What I do have worries about is the governance structure. I believe that the governance structure should not be a public-private partnership, but rather a port authority should be established. There are checks and balances with the port authority. There's accountability. There will be more structure and more guidelines, and the people will have answers, and that accountability is going to be critical.
Sure. And starting with you this time, Mayor. Residents of subdivisions outside the city use city services but do not have city utilities. Do you want to expand the boundaries of the city anytime soon? Why or why not?
Well, I don't think it necessarily is up to what I want. I think it's up to what the people want. And anytime we have questions like that come up, I think we need to go back to the people. We need to hear what the people have to say. That's why I believe that the Coffees with the Mayor have been so popular, so good for the communication that we've been able to develop. The times that people can come and talk and share what they feel, we're able to get a consensus in the room many, many times. And I think that kind of information can be critical when we're talking about subjects like this. Certainly there will be emotions running high on both sides of the table.
And Mr. Harper?
I think a lot of the people have sat outside of the city limits there. A lot of it, they had more room or whatever, various number of reasons, and a lot of times if they have been inside the city limits, why they see some of the shortcomings, and usually if they had enough of it, why they request to be annexed in, and so that comes along. But sometimes they're doing why they're outside the city limits because economy reasons. Sometimes it's cheaper to live there and sometimes it's not. When it all comes out about equal, why then they're ready to be annexed in. And then when you get an area in, you have to have all the people or the majority of them decide, not just the minority deciding they want to be annexed in.
There's so much more we could talk about. We're getting short on time. Let's go to your closing statements, 1 minute each, and start with Mr. Harper.
I want to express my appreciation for the League of Women Voters for hosting the event tonight. It's wonderful to see the number of candidates have stepped up to do their community. I've been asked many times why I'm willing to run for mayor. It's quite simple. Muscatine is my home, my family's home, and I want to make Muscatine better, stronger, and a first choice for many others. I'm running for mayor of Muscatine because as a community, we need our first priority to make Muscatine the first town people consider to work, live, and raise their families. It should be the first place people want to start a business or an existing business to expand and grow. Muscatine should be the first choice for people to shop, the first place for people to enjoy recreation, first place for people to choose to retire. There are many positive things happening in Muscatine. It's time to focus on what's great about Muscatine and move forward. As a mayor, I would be a genuine ambassador for Muscatine. I'm asking for your vote in November. As a mayor, I would proudly represent my home. I'm also old enough that the longest I've ever been out of the Muscatine is in 1994 when I rode my bicycle across the country and I was gone for 37 days. That's the longest I've been out of the community at one time. Thank you.
And Mayor Broderson.
Once again, I'd like to thank both of you as well as the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Anytime the citizens have the opportunity to interact with elected officials or prospective ones, it is a celebration of democracy. Ideas are exchanged and people are empowered to share their opinions and their concerns. The best part of my job as your mayor is when one of you comes to me for help and I can come alongside you and work with you and we can work on the issues and resolve them. As your mayor, I'm here to serve you and make your voice rise above all else. I will continue pressing forward to make Muscatine be the city that the people want it to be. I thank you for allowing me to be your mayor for these last 2 years, and I ask for your vote on November 7th so that I can continue to serve the people of Muscatine. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you candidates. We would also like to thank the City of Muscatine for providing space and for television viewing made possible by MPW Digital TV and Muscatine Community College as they provide resources. And Chad Yoakum back in the control room and Chad Bishop was a lot of help too, streaming on YouTube and everything. That's pretty neat. I understand that this program will be rebroadcast on cable TV at 10 a.m., 4 p.m., and 10 p.m. Thursday through Sunday, if I'm saying that right, on Digital TV Channel 2. Here are ways to register to vote. You can register at the polls, you can go to the county auditor's office, or mail in a completed voter registration form that's available here tonight. Talk to you, Sue.
See me.
The League of Women Voters encourages all citizens to learn the issues, register, and vote on November 7th?
7th.
Oh, good. Thank you, and good night.
That's fine.
Is this when we go drink?
Yes, we're gonna go to Boone.